not too long ago, the 9th gen consoles were just released. The Xbox Series X, the PS5, and the Xbox Series S. And, well, I figured it would be a good time to discuss how I felt about the 8th generation of consoles, the 8th generation of gaming. Because it's a generation where I have a lot to say. And I think a lot of people are gonna have something to say about this generation in particular. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, I'm gonna split this up into 2 different videos. For this one, I'm gonna talk about mainly the companies, like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo. I'm not really gonna I'm not really gonna go too much into games. I'll do that on my next video. So if you just want to skip this one, that's fine, and see that other one, that's cool too. But I want to start talking about Microsoft, because that was my console of choice for most of the generations, mainly because of just the controller and the games. I felt that, I'm a big fan of the original Xbox, and I think that is one of the most criminally underrated consoles ever. But great console, and then it was followed up by the Xbox 360, which was also a great console. But then we get to the Xbox One. First of all, it's a terrible name. You guys were doing so good with, the numbers. Why not just call this one the 720? And then maybe when you get to like 1280 and all that stuff, maybe find a different route. But I think 720 would have been a good idea for a name. It would have been a lot better than 1. It just sounds dumb, because people when they used to say Xbox One, they meant the original Xbox. So it's just kind of a stupid idea to name your console that, especially after you already had 2 consoles. It wasn't like this was your first one. But anyways, yeah, I remember the Xbox One reveal, and it was awful. And going back and watching it, whew, it is just as bad as you remember. It's almost as bad as like Sony's press conference with the PlayStation 3. Like, that's how it's like, oh god, like, what are you doing? That's the sort of question that was running through everybody's head during that reveal. But anyways, yeah, horrible start from Microsoft, just absolutely terrible. And it set them back. It had to. There was also another reason why the console was held back, was because of the Kinect. Because nobody wants to have a big, ugly camera staring right at them while they're just playing games. Nobody wants that. And they felt it was necessary to throw that in, even though nobody liked it with 360, and no one liked it when it was on Xbox One. So yeah, that also hurt them. When I first got the Xbox, because I was really looking forward to MCC, and I kind of felt a little bit of regret when it first came out. There was some games on it that were fun, but I'd look over and see the PlayStation, I'd be like, wow, they got like God of War and Spider-Man. Like, maybe I made a mistake. But around, I think it was 2016, 2017, it may have even been 2018, that's when they introduced like the backwards compatibility, which, man, I didn't use it a whole lot at first, but I use it so much now. And the best part about it is I can play original Xbox games on the Xbox One, which is just amazing. Panzer Dragoon Orta never looked better than on the Xbox One. It's amazing. 2018 is really when things started to turn around for Xbox. That's when we started seeing a lot of, not necessarily games, but a lot of really good consumer-friendly ideas were starting to come out. Like, I just mentioned backwards compatibility, but there was also like the Duke controller, that awesome thing, the new and improved Duke controller, which it's so cool. I'm so glad they brought that back because I think that controller is just awesome. But overall, one thing that Microsoft definitely struggled with was not having a lot of really hard-hitting exclusives. They really, I mean, like the Gears games were all right. The Halo games were utter garbage. Forza was Forza, kept doing its thing. But that was about it. I mean, when it comes to games, Microsoft was lacking a bit, but they're starting to turn things around now, and I think going into the 9th generation, we're going to see a whole lot of really good exclusives come out from them. Maybe not a whole lot, but just a few, like, really good exclusives. Something that they really could have used during this generation of consoles. That it would have really helped them out a lot. But let's talk about Sony. They won this generation right from the reveal. Okay, they didn't really win it because there was that other company we'll get to in a sec. But they definitely beat Microsoft. And all it took was just like, mentioning the price. And there was that one commercial about like used games. Because like Microsoft was trying to do that thing where you would have to like pay a fee to just borrow a game from a friend, and PlayStation had that awesome commercial that was just like, you want to know how to share or if you want to share a game with a friend, this is all you have to do. And it was ingenious. And yeah, I know a lot of people who had 360s from the 7th generation. They went over to PlayStation like that. It was like not even a contest. Microsoft pretty much just shot themselves in the head. It was very odd, but PlayStation, I felt for about the first half they were just unstoppable. And then they had like great games and all the great sort of features that came with PlayStation. But then around like halfway through the generation, they didn't turn evil, but they were starting to become very consumer unfriendly. I remember when Fortnite came out and it had cross-play for like PC, Xbox, and Switch, and Sony was the last company to opt in for the cross-play. And it was very like, what are you doing? You're missing out on this great experience. And, going into the 9th gen, I think people still are feeling confident in Sony, but I would not be surprised if a number of people felt that they might be a little bit worried about them, because it seems like they've let all the success go to their heads, sort of like what happened with Microsoft. We'll have to see more, though, for the 9th generation. But overall, PlayStation was very solid. They had a ton of great games come out this year. Definitely a lot of support from companies like Square, and even like Call of Duty went over to Sony for their like timed exclusive sort of stuff. But I eventually got a PlayStation 4 a few years into the generation, and I fell in love with it right away. I don't really care. In fact, I don't care at all what platform I play on. All I care about are the games, and Sony definitely hit it out of the park. Guilty Gear and BlazBlue were they're just a couple of the games that I really enjoyed on the PlayStation 4. And there's a ton of other ones too. We'll go into that later though. So Sony, feeling confident, but at the same time, little worrisome going into the 9th gen. Now, the console I did not have for this generation, but I played it quite a bit, was the Nintendo Switch. And I only played about 2 games, but from those 2 games, I wanted a Switch, and I still really want one. When I heard that Metroid Prime 4 was coming out, I'm like, alright, I gotta get a Switch. But then Metroid Prime 4 got delayed, and I was like, alright, I'll hold off on it. But there were some other games for it that I really want to check out, like the Panzer Dragoon remake and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake. I think those look like a hell of a lot of fun. The two games that I really played, though, was with friends, and that was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Zelda Breath of the Wild. I really enjoyed the hell out of both of these games. And I'm not like the biggest Nintendo fan. And if you've seen some of my reviews, you know that, but I was impressed. I was like, damn, I probably should have bought one of these. I probably should have bought a Switch, because Breath of the Wild, I only played about 5 hours of it when I was at a friend's house, but still, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And, of course, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Growing up, I played a lot of Melee and a lot of Brawl, and that was kind of it for me for a while, so it was really cool to jump back into it. And I like all the different characters that they have thrown into Smash Ultimate. The only thing that would make that game better is if Master Chief was in it. It's the truth. And Arbiter. Put Arbiter in there too if you're going to put in Master Chief. But, yeah, those were... I felt that Nintendo, coming off of the Wii U, which technically that is the start of the 8th gen, but I've never seen one, I've never played one, so can't comment on that. It was a huge turnaround for Nintendo, and, for the last probably 13 years or so, they've been... You could even go as far back as like N64 or GameCube, but they've been experimenting a little bit here and there. With the Wii, it was with the motion controls. With the Wii U, it was like a sort of a fusion between a tablet and the TV, and now that's pretty much what the Switch is, but they perfected it. And, a lot of people look back on the Wii, and we kind of laugh at it, including myself. But there were some good games on there, and I'm sure there were some good games on the Wii U. I just can't think of any. But the Switch was a fantastic console. It's a cool concept for, I think, a certain group of people. Maybe if you don't have a whole lot of time to play video games, I would recommend a Switch. That way you could take it with you wherever you want. And, it's great. Speaking of which, I have the soundtrack to Breath of the Wild sitting right over there on CD, and it's a phenomenal soundtrack. Not much else I can say about Nintendo, because I didn't have a Switch, but what I played, I was really interested, and I think they're coming out with like a improved Switch, sort of like what Microsoft and Sony did with the upgraded versions of their consoles. I think I'll pick that up. And then when Metroid Prime 4 comes out, I'm going to play that. I have to play that because I love the Metroid series. Nintendo, could we also get some F-Zero love, please? I know there's always... there's tons of like Mario and Zelda games that come out in every generation, but I think we should give those a break for once and focus on Metroid and F-Zero. That's what I would love to see anyways. I want to talk about a few like individual companies that are not console makers, but like third-party developers. The first one being Konami. Wow, you guys just totally killed your own legacy. You totally just destroyed any love for your company with this generation. I remember when the PT demo for Silent Hills was coming out. That was the most excited I've been for a game in a long, long time. I love Konami, but I'm not the biggest Metal Gear fan. I don't hate the series, but I think that their other IPs were just better. I am more of a Castlevania and Silent Hills kind of guy. I'm not really I've beaten like the first Metal Gear, and I got halfway through Metal Gear Solid 2, so... and when I say Metal Gear, I mean I beat the first Metal Gear Solid. I should make that known. But wow, when they decided to cancel Silent Hills, I was like, all right, that's it. And we found out they were treating their employees like trash and everything. So, and when I remember when Phantom Pain came out, a lot of people were telling me to buy it, but I couldn't even bring myself to buy it. I don't have any respect for Konami right now or anymore. The only way they can gain my respect now is if they release like proper Castlevania games and proper Silent Hill games. But yeah, Konami really let us down this generation. And it's a shame too, because Kojima, you know, a lot of people were really looking forward to his game, Death Stranding. Thankfully, I never picked it up, but it was hard to see that such a legendary developer like that could have so much hype around one game, and then it just crumbled upon release. Tough to see, but hey, hopefully his next game will be all right, and I think he'll be okay. He's Kojima, all right. He'll be all right. Another company I want to talk about is Capcom. Now, with the 7th generation, Capcom was just awful. They were terrible. Releasing just a bunch of kind of half-assed sequels to Street Fighter, and locking things off on the disc, locking it like on disc DLC. Yeah, that was pretty shitty. But this generation, they turned things around quite a bit too, especially with Resident Evil. 7th generation, Resident Evil was just in a tailspin. It was terrible, awful, and then it got back on its feet with Resident Evil 7, which was an excellent game, and then that was followed up with the Resident Evil 2 remake, which is also phenomenal. I went through that game like probably 4 or 5 different times, and I haven't played the Resident Evil 3 remake yet, but overall, I'm really happy with Capcom this generation because, well, okay, maybe not really happy. I just remembered, I totally forgot about Street Fighter V. When they released that, it didn't have an arcade mode. I don't know why you would ever release a fighting game without an arcade mode. That's just absurd, but now there's one in there, thank God. But, yeah, overall, happy with Capcom. So that's going to do it for the first part of this video. Let me know what you guys think. I want to hear what other people think about this generation. Was it disappointing to you, or was it the complete opposite? Was it something that you fell in love with? I know a lot of people personally who got into gaming this generation, so I'm interested to see what people's opinions are out there. It would be quite interesting. Next video is going to be pretty much just all about the games that I fell in love with. So, see you next time.